Hi YouTube. We're here with my friend Robert.
Hi.
He's a local entrepreneur and business owner here in Spokane. Where were you at when you decided to say, you know what, I'm going to own my own business?
So for me, I've always wanted to own my own business. The moment when I knew that I needed to just start putting in the work into making that dream become a reality, it was about 5-ish years ago. I had actually just moved to Spokane, moved here with the intention of being able to put the resources towards that creation. There's a product that I was personally looking for, and I would go to different stores trying to find it. Was never able to find the product that I was looking for, and I eventually actually got help from an herbalist that helped me to find a recipe that could work for me, but it was something I had to manually create myself. After making that product and it actually working really well for me, I was super excited about it, and started to do all the work for the infrastructure of the product so that I could have it on the shelf. Even though at the very beginning, the recipe still needed a lot of work too. So I did everything else. I did my LLC, I got my business license, I paid a guy to make the logo, got the packaging all together and everything, but didn't have the actual recipe to fill the product with. By the time I actually got to that point, it was actually my wife who came up with the recipe, but it only took us pretty much in an afternoon. We figured it out. One of the things that I learned in that process was that there are roadblocks that I would actually make for myself. To actually take the action, it was a lot easier than worrying about needing to take that action. We had the product. We started to sell it online and in some stores with limited success at first. And that was actually around the time when I first met you, and you helped me out a lot with actually having the confidence to try to find that correct store that was actually going to have the traction for the company.
Right.
And actually from that process too, that was one of the things that caught the attention of a potential investor for the company, which ended up actually becoming an investor in the company. Huge part of the process was having that outside perspective through our consultation to find the right market for us to fit into, instead of continuing to having our same perspective throughout the process.
Right. Me and Robert, we met while I was taking my kids on an outing to the Mobius Center. We started talking about business, and we sat down and figured a way to get his product, his ideas into market.
And throughout this whole process, I was still working a 9-to-5. I say a lot of times I use my fun money on working on the business, but it's I still had plenty of fun too. I just, maybe instead of going to the bar, I was having friends come over to play video games or something.
So you're putting your personal money into this business creation.
Yes.
There wasn't a pre-written business plan, a funding pool.
Well, it's funny that you said it. There was no funding pool at first. It was all being personally funded. But actually, creating the business plan was the very first thing I did. I just found a template online for a business plan. That business plan ended up being super different from what I actually did, but having that long form vision of it really helped me to visualize it as a real likelihood, a real possibility.
Now you told people about what you did. Now you could say what helped you and maybe give some advice to others.
Right. Yeah, because I'd say the biggest thing is that you can be your own worst enemy very easily. Because through the process, at the beginning, I had a lot of confidence, but as that process went along all the way to it actually existing in real life, that should be a joyous moment. My confidence had waned a little bit by then because of some outside factors, but really taking responsibility for it. It was my confidence waned because I stopped believing in my product as much as I did when I first started. Because it goes in waves, and kind of expecting that and going easy on yourself about that, and just knowing the work that you need to do to push forward. That confidence, those feelings around your product will come back too, or they can come back. one of the ways that the lack of confidence can manifest is by making a small thing bigger than it is. Let's say there's a thing you need to do. Let's say you have the idea of, oh, wouldn't it be cool if my packaging looked this way? But you think it's impossible. It's like, just try. You literally, you most likely have a smartphone in your pocket that has infinite access to. There's a little kitten trying to get fed over.
We found a kitten in our Connex box not too many days ago, without a mama. It is being diligently fed by somebody off camera. Thank you to that person.
Yes. Let's say there's a thing that you need to do, but you're putting it off, and you're making it this big thing because you think it's impossible for your company to be able to do that particular thing. You probably have a smartphone in your pocket, so you have infinite access to like all of the information on the internet right now. So the thing that's stopping you from even inquiring about it is you right now. Like right now, turn off the video, go and do the thing that you need to do, and it's so easy. it's so easy to say that, but when the way that I've been able to work through it, I have a number of how many attempts I need to make. So for me, it's a dozen right now, and so whether that's getting a dozen quotes on a box, or whether that's getting a dozen quotes from lawyers, or if it's coming up with a dozen different versions of the ad copy that I want. Like, even if 6 of them are super bad and obviously bad, it's like even just getting those out, doing those attempts helps so much.
Right. I'm reminded of something my friend said. He's a martial artist down in San Diego. When his students are complaining about, oh, I can't learn this form, or I can't learn this one move, I can't do this kick like you're showing me. He's like, if somebody was paying you $1 million or $3 million to learn that kick by the end of the day, or learn that form by the end of the day, you'd do it. And he says, definitely. Yeah, you can take that energy and you can put it into anything in life. That thing that stands in your way can become your greatest asset.
That's exactly what I tell myself too. Like, when I'm doing the boring steps of the process, they're not boring anymore when I have that number in my head next to that task that I'm doing. Right. Like if you're able to identify what your market is, like let's say it's a particular, like you can go to your local library and like there's sites like Statista that give results of just statistical numbers of what a particular demographic is. So let's say you can identify who it is that would purchase your product. Just find out what that number is of how many people could possibly in your country purchase your product from you, and then also maybe worldwide as well, and see like if you were to have the ability to approach all of them at least once, right, and present your product to them, and you have the look at what the possibilities are of the financial outcomes if, let's say, if you even fall flat on your face with it. Let's say you get 1%. 1%. Let's say 1% of the people who want your product were to buy it. Would you be able to? What does that number mean to you? Like, is that a good enough number? If that's an amazing number, then you can that thing immediately, right? Because it's. I'm sorry, I don't know if I should curse or not, but right. But you should totally do that thing immediately, because it's more than likely that you're gonna get higher than that small percentage number, and that's exactly what I did for myself, and it drove me along to do a lot of
that's fantastic.
A lot of the boring work.
For entrepreneurial work, that can be reaching out to a populace. It doesn't have to necessarily be monetarily motivated, but for family, we have that huge drive to make our kids successful, to set up generational wealth. As a citizen, to create a better economy, and all those things. Mm-hmm. They're huge drives. But when it comes down to it, as a creator, I feel like the biggest anxiety for me is putting money in my pocket. And so that to have that tangible, like, hey, even if I reached 1% of my target, this is still lucrative, and lucrative to the tune of this many zeros. That
exactly.
That's a huge motivator,
right?
So,
for sure.
Non-binary, but still.
Yeah. and really, I'm reminded too that, like, I at first thought that I didn't want to have any investors. Actually, I thought that I really wanted it to be like a story that was very replicable. That so that if someone heard my story and they heard that I had gotten an investor, then they think, oh, they can't do it. But what I actually learned throughout the process is how easy it is to if you have an airtight idea, if you have an idea that, like, as we were just describing, with knowing what your market is, how if you were to get 1%, if it's an attractive number from that alone, then there are investors that want to give you the money, right. And we didn't solicit for an investor at first. It was an investor approached us, and then from there, starting to look into the process of, well, what would be a dozen investors for the company. We started to see that there are a lot of resources out there where there are a lot of people that just are hoping for an opportunity to invest in someone. So just go easier on yourself about the fact that if you put in the work, the luck will appear. It'll come to you. It's not a random occurrence. Luck comes to those who are prepared. Well, one of the things that we've talked about before is just like looking at the fact that in a lot of cases, investing in someone is a safer bet than putting your money in like a mutual fund.
Right now with the markets turning down, I don't know about necessarily a mutual fund, but definitely 401ks right now that are following, or stocks that are following the stock market. Any investment that is following the stock market in a non-indexed way is dangerous right now as the markets go up and down and fluctuate. Housing markets, they fluctuate as well. So what some investors are doing is taking their money out of these more aggressive investing environments and putting it into more of a sure thing. That's into local entrepreneurial investments. These investments can net investors much more than any market return out there. I was talking to a real estate developer that says in a tough time he will give 15% return on investments to his investors. That is unheard of in the market. So that idea of lucky necessarily isn't
right? Exactly.
Isn't there. It's that there is money that exists out there. You have to do the work to do an excellent presentation like you did.
Yeah.
And you reached out to a website that...
Yeah, I use a couple of different websites just to find different freelancers out there that love to do this type of work. I use Fiverr.com, so that's Fiverr with like 2 R's at the end. I found someone that would help me with my pitch deck. And so there are people out there that are specifically doing exactly these types of presentations for people, for giant corporations all the time.
So you don't have to become an expert.
And you don't have to, no. And you don't have to break the bank for it necessarily. There's some, and if you're more of a DIY kind of person, you can even just like videos on what should be in your pitch deck, and then also just having someone who just makes pretty presentations for like a fraction of the price of the person who does the specific pitch deck thing. You could do it that way. You could bootstrap it and save even more money too.
Outstanding.
So there's lots of ways to utilize, like, as an entrepreneur, what we kind of are like, we're conductors of like a symphony. As corny as that sounds for business, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
But you know what I mean.
You've got to integrate all parts.
Yeah, you're being the person who's doing the collaboration. You're leading the collaboration between a lot of different individuals, and so finding those right people to work with is key. I highly recommend looking at Fiverr.com. Upwork.com's got a lot of great freelancers as well. Kind of a tier above, like very professional on there, and just like So if you think that something is impossible to be done, you should check in, see if there's someone that you could actually get the work done from, and like get a quote from them on the price for maybe talk to a dozen people on these websites about your idea and see what rates they would give you before you pay to have them work on the thing. If you think it's something that's that far off, you know, where you can't, maybe you don't know how to make your prototype right now. You maybe there's someone out there that can help you figure that out.
And if the funding is too much, that's a good time to seek investing.
Yeah.
Because if there's an investor out there who likes what you've developed so far, they'll jump on board with it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there are no hurdles in business that are not hurdleable.
Yeah, exactly.
Overcomeable.
I think that I think that the hurdles are often the ones that we create. I recognize the fact that honestly I do have a lot of privileges in the fact that I was able to have steady 9-to-5 jobs that weren't they weren't like I was a line cook and like worked at like a children's museum, and so it wasn't a lot of money, but I still I recognize that being able to first be able to take care of my needs thoroughly, and then also being able to recognize do I want to spend $75 at the bar this weekend, or do I want to just buy one of these things that I need for my prototype, for my product, that might make me X amount of dollars when I did the calculation of my market. Exactly. If you can get excited about your future, instead of I was able to pull that off, but not everybody has those main things already taken care of.
It's getting out of that credit-based living, and it's getting into that investing for the future, planning for your retirement, planning for what you've assessed your own value statement to be. If you assess your value statement, you say, listen, this is my value, and then this is what I want my quality of life to be. You can give your money a mission. You can take your money and you can say, this is what I want it to do for me. And that's when you start to take control. You know.
Exactly. I mean, and that's really been the thing that's pushed me through this process. Is it's really hard to go to work when you recognize that you're just making someone else rich every day. It
wage
hurts.
slavery. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it hurts, and it's been really a powerful process as I become an entrepreneur as well, trying to make sure that I'm checking that as well too. You know, making sure that I'm being equitable with the people who are going to be working with me as well. So
quality of life. I mean, it's if the quality of life changes for you and that trickle effect happens for other people, that's what's changing the world.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. Is there's so much more space in the market for all of us. People have been, if you look around, there's so many more people that are creating nowadays,
right.
And I think it's an amazing, beautiful thing.
Yeah. Because
there's just so many more ways that we can add value to each other's lives. So being able to I can see a future where a lot of the businesses, the majority of people's businesses that they consume from are their local community that they're taking from. And that could be a new prosperity for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Robert, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Sure. And before we go, is there anything you can say to the YouTube community out there to encourage them? Anybody out there who's thinking of becoming? I mean, anything more that you would like to add?
Actually, by watching this, they're already doing one thing. That's
right.
That's a good start. Is changing. Adding things to your regimen that are more in the lifestyle that you imagine you will be living. So I've listened to podcasts. I love a Side Hustle School. I don't know if I told you about that one.
No.
It's nice. super short little podcasts about people who are working side jobs while still doing their full-time gigs as well. Is really was a really encouraging one for me. Finding what your thing is and also following up with an action. Take care of yourself. You know, to check in and making sure that you're doing well as you're pushing yourself to create this life that you want.
Outstanding.
So yeah.
Outstanding. If you guys want to learn more about business consulting, if you have an idea that you'd like to develop, please reach out to me. I can connect you to local resources in your community. If possible, we can brainstorm together. We might even be able to work together on a project. Like this video, subscribe, share it to all those you think can benefit from it, and let's change the world. Have a great day.
See ya.